Very good morning to all of you. I am Vinay Kumar. Today, the topic of the talk is Earth observation sensors and platforms. So, Earth observation sensors includes the different sensors which are placed on different platforms for capturing the information of the Earth. For that, you have to just go through some of the basic thing that is you can call as remote sensing. So normally remote sensing is what? It is the art, science and technology to observe the object or phenomenon by instrument based technique. And remote means what? Because we are observing the information, we are collecting the data without being in physical contact with the object. And sensing is detection of energy such as light or another form of electromagnetic energy. Like you are seeing me, I am seeing the particular slide, so that is also remote sensing. So means because I am sensing the information without being in physical contact with the particular screen. Now how it is possible? It is possible because the reflected energy coming from that particular screen, so that is I am my eyes are sensing, and that is I am the information is getting retrieved. So remote sensing is also working in a similar principle, which requires electromagnetic energy to sense the data, to collect the data from a far distance. Now, why remote sensing started using for Earth observation? So normally our eyes are sensitive to only particular wavelength range, that is visible wavelength range. But by using remote sensing sensors, it enables to observe or study the nature in ways that would otherwise be beyond human capability. Because we can use infrared wavelength range also, microwave wavelength range also for collecting the information. So those lights are invisible to your human eyes. Now you have to understand first the remote sensing process. So normally in this there are different stages. First is energy source, where sun is acting as electromagnetic energy source when there is a passive remote sensing. And when sensor itself is having own source of illumination, then that is called as active remote sensing. So let us say that either from sensor or from sun, energy is coming to the earth surface, and it is getting absorbed or transmitted, and some are getting reflected back to the sensor. So that energy which is received by the sensor is then converted into digital number, and then it is converted in form of electromagnetic signal, and it is transmitted to ground receiving station. There people are doing processing, like some of the pre-processing are done in this ground receiving and processing station. Now why we have to do the pre-processing? Because you can see here, in between sun and earth, and in between earth and sensor, there is atmosphere. So whatever energy we are expecting to receive, we are not receiving the same. So that is introducing some of the errors while receiving the information to the sensor. Second thing is what? Your sensor is after all electronic and mechanical device, so that also introduce certain errors. So these errors are getting processed, pre-processed in ground receiving and processing station, and after that it is transferred it to some user for different analysis, and that is used for different kind of application like land use, atmosphere, geology, hydrology, and number of application it can be used. Now you can see here there is a communication satellite. So why this communication satellite is required? Suppose we have ground receiving antenna and the sensor is away from the range of ground receiving antenna, and we need the data on an urgent basis. Then what satellite is doing? It is transmitting the data to some nearby communication satellite, and that communication satellite is sending the data to that ground receiving station. Now you can see through this image also that how the satellite is coming in the range and how the antenna is moving as it is coming in the view of this satellite, and the electronic signal is received, and the data is then converted from this electronic signal to two-dimensional image. So in India, we have four ground receiving antennas which are taking care of data downloading, that is present in Sadnagar, Hyderabad. Now coming to the definition, so as I told that our eyes are sensing the information, that is also remote sensing, but these eyes are need to be kept properly in a platform like our head. So in this case you can see sensors and platforms, they both are in combination are going to create image data of earth. Sensors are device which records electromagnetic energy, and platforms are we are working as a carrier bed which is carrying the sensor to collect the proper information from the sensor. Like you can see, suppose you are using a camera and you are putting it in a stable platform and take the photograph, it will give you a proper information. But if you are putting in a sacky platform, then your camera will also not work properly. So that requires a proper stable platform to capture a proper information from the earth or anywhere wherever you want to collect the information. Now let us go to the history of remote sensing, how it evolved. It evolved with the first invention of camera. The first photograph was taken in 1827. Then this particular camera was introduced. They kept in hot air balloon and they started taking picture. Then after in 1861 and 1865, that balloon photography was used in American Civil War. Then 1888 rocket cameras were used. In 1903, pigeon mounted camera were patented. So you can see how the pigeon camera were mounted on the pigeon, and the photograph taken from the pigeon camera. Then in 1906, first photograph from a kite was taken. This particular technology from kite and from balloon are still being used. Then in 1914, after invention of aircraft, during World War One and Two, they have used this particular plane mounted cameras. Then after in 1956, U-2 spy planes were made. In 1957, first satellite was launched, and in 1960, first meteorological satellite was launched, that was Teros 1. Then in 1967, first major evolvement took place in remote sensing. The program name was NASA's Earth Resource Technology Satellite Program. So first satellite was launched in 1972. That is the first remote sensing satellite. So this is the first image captured by that Landsat 1. So they launched a series of satellite, that is Earth Resource Technology Satellite, and they renamed as Landsat. Now, coming to the platforms. So, platforms are categorized into three types: ground based, airborne, and spaceborne. Now, coming to ground based platforms, normally ground based platforms are being used whenever you have to calibrate or validate the information, whatever was captured through airborne and spaceborne. And normally to get the more detailed information you require ground based platforms. So sometimes your tall building, your crane, your trucks can be used as ground based platform for collecting the information. Now coming to airborne platforms, now the airborne platforms are earlier your stable wing aircraft or helicopters are being used, but nowadays drones are being used for collecting the data whenever you require data on a urgent basis, so you can fly it immediately and you can collect the information. And you know that the drone and UAVs are actually providing you very very good spatial resolution data, which I'm going to talk about later, that is spatial resolution. So normally this hot air balloon or your drone are moving flying at altitude of 100 to 300 meter or 500 meter to capture the information. Then spaceborne are your satellites which are flying at an altitude of 800 kilometers whenever we are talking about sun synchronous satellites. So you can see that with a different altitude, how much area is getting acquired by your particular sensors with different platforms. So normally with satellite you are able to capture a larger area compared to your airborne or UAV platforms. Now, as I told, ground based platforms are able to give you detailed information, and it is required to compare with aircraft or satellite sensors acquired data and to better characterize the target. So, normally it is radar, scaffolding, tall building, crane, etc. Then coming to airborne platforms. Now, earlier people were using this. Suppose somewhere flood happened, some disaster happened, people were flying aircraft and getting the data on a urgent basis. So the limitation of airborne platforms are what? That we cannot fly aircraft again and again to get the temporal data. But launching the satellite, once you launch the satellite, and it will continuously revolve around your earth surface and it will provide you the data. So this is called as means it is not economical, but whenever there is a urgency or any disaster is happening, we are flying the aircraft. Then coming to space-borne platforms. Space-borne platforms are space shuttle, international space station, satellites. But international space station are normally not used for capturing the remote sensing data. They are used for various other purposes. But coming to space shuttle and satellite, they are the things which are used for acquiring the data and coming back. But mostly satellites are being used for collecting the information, collecting the data for your earth surface. Because once you will launch the satellite to your earth surface, it will continuously revolve, and till its lifetime it will provide you the data. So normally moon is considered to be your natural satellite, whereas man-made satellites are your artificial one, which is used for remote sensing, communication and telemetry purposes. Then coming to orbits. Orbits are what? The path followed by the satellite is called as orbit, and satellite moves as per Kepler's law. So Kepler's laws, there are three laws of given by Kepler's. So you can see here, whenever any planet is revolving around sun, where sun is considered as one of the focus. So first law is what? It is following an elliptical orbit. Second law is what? The line joining to the planet to sun sweeps out equal area at equal times. Like suppose this area is a1, it is taking t1 time, and this area is a2, it is taking time t2. So the product is always going to be same. Third law is what? The square of the period of planet is proportional to the cube of semi-major axis. So suppose it is taking t time to cover entire orbit, so that is your time period, and semi-major axis is this one. So this is the square of time period is proportional, directly proportional to cube of this semi-major axis. So normally whatever satellites are orbiting the earth surface, they are also following Kepler's law, and some orbit are your elliptical or near circular. So whenever eccentricity becomes zero, your elliptical orbit becomes circular. Now you have to understand few of the satellite orbital characteristics, like altitude. So altitude is what? Whenever any particular object, like any sensor, is flying with the mean sea level of your earth surface, means the distance between the mean sea level of your earth surface to the particular platform, that is called as altitude. So, and inclination angle is what? Suppose this is your earth and this is the equatorial plane, and satellite is orbiting like this is called as orbital plane. So the angle between that is called as inclination angle. Now this is very important, because normally to cover entire earth data, we require satellite to be near polar. When the satellite is near polar, it is going to continuously observe, it is continuously revolving from north to south, and whole earth data will be captured. But if it is suppose 45-degree inclination angle, it will acquire data till plus 45-degree latitude till minus 45-degree latitude. So remaining portions will be uncovered by your satellite. So inclination angle is very important. Then coming to period. Period is whenever satellite is launched, so it to complete one orbital revolution, that is called as time period. Then coming to repeat cycle. Now repeat cycle is what? Whenever satellite is making the similar orbital pass, like suppose first pass it made and earth gets rotated, after some days it is making the same orbital pass, that is called as repeat cycle. Now coming to swath. Swath is like you can see our eyes are having some, are able to see to a certain width. So your sensor is also able to see a certain width. So that is called as swath. So this area, you can see this width which is captured by your satellite, that is called as swath width. Now coming to ascending pass and descending pass. This is also very important because whenever satellite is moving from north pole to south pole, that is called as descending pass, and whenever it is moving from south pole to north pole, that is called as ascending pass. So normally what happens whenever satellite is moving from north to south, sun is looking to that area, and during descending pass most of your passive sensors are working. And coming to your thermal sensors can work during ascending pass also, because it is receiving the emitted energy which gets absorbed during daytime. And your active sensors like your microwave sensors can work during ascending pass. Now, depending on that, you have two types of satellite. Normally, orbital categories you can divide into three types: low Earth orbit, medium Earth orbit, and your geo orbit. So, on the basis of that, there are two satellites. One is geostationary satellite. Why the name is given as geostationary satellite is because it appears to be stationary to your to your Earth's movement. So normally the altitude of that satellite is around 36,000 kilometer, and it is going to continuously observe the same area. And if you want to observe whole Earth surface, you have to launch satellites at different latitudes so that it can cover the entire Earth. Orbital inclination is 0 degree, means with equatorial plane the angle made by your satellite is 0 degree. Period of orbit is around 24 hours to cover the entire orbital revolution. Then coming to the satellites, as I told, that required several geostationary satellite at different latitudes. It is good for repetitive observation. So for weather forecasting, for meteorological application, that is very good because that requires temporal high temporal resolution data. Larger distortions at high latitudes. Why there is a larger distortions? Because your Earth surface is not flat and your swath width of this satellite is going to be comparatively larger, so it is going to cover the Earth curvature also. So that's why there is a distortions at high latitudes. And these satellites are west to east, as your Earth is also rotating from west to east. Examples are your GOES, Meteosat, and in case of India we have INSAT and GSAT series satellite. Coming to sun synchronous satellite, the satellites are normally going to have altitude with 700 to 800 kilometers, and orbital inclination you can see is nearby your pole. So that is 98.7 degree. This is just one example. And for that particular satellite, which is having altitude of 700 to 800 kilometer, it takes around 90 minutes to cover the entire orbit. This is also called as sun synchronous, near polar, near circular, and satellite orbit is fixed. You can see in this case that orbit is fixed and Earth rotates beneath it. Normally, it crosses the equator at least in a day at 10:30 a.m. or in a daytime. For different satellite, this time is going to be different, but it should be in the morning time. As I gave you example that mostly sun synchronous satellites, which is your using passive sensor, are going to work during descending pass. Then satellite orbital plane is near polar, and the altitude is such that the satellite passes each place at same local sun time. The examples are your Landsat, Spot, Sentinel, and your Indian remote sensing satellite, RISat, Cartosat series. So these are few of the satellites which are using sun synchronous orbit. Now coming to this, because of the rotation, you can see through this particular animation that how the satellite is moving and Earth beneath it is rotating. So because of this revolution of satellite and rotation of your Earth, whole Earth data gets imaged. Then coming to sensors, there are two categories of sensors: passive and active sensors. Passive sensors are what? Which is when there is an external energy source. So sun is sending energy and reflected energy received by your sensor. But your thermal sensor also comes under passive because that is also using sun's energy, but it can work during night time also, as it is receiving the emitted energy at night. It is able to receive the emitted energy at night time also. Coming to active sensor, it is sending its own source of illumination and receiving back the same energy which is transmitted by the satellite. So microwave remote sensing, your lidar remote sensing are using this active sensor. Now, these sensors are also categorized into two types: imaging and non imaging sensor. Imaging sensors are your normal photographic camera. Your photographic camera, when you are using flash, they can also come under your active sensor. And normally, most of your sensors are using this optical scanners, that is across track and along track scanner. So I'm going to talk about that how the remote sensing sensor, how the remote sensing scanners are working or collecting the data. Then you have thermal scanner. Then coming to active sensor, we have synthetic aperture radar, your lidar, which is going to provide you the two dimensional image of any particular surface. Coming to non-imaging sensors, passive sensors are like spectroradiometer. Spectroradiometer is a device which is able to give you a spectral profile, or you can say spectral signature of for different wavelength what is the reflectance value that is getting measured by your spectroradiometer. Active sensors are laser distance meter, laser water depth meter, and microwave altimeter. So these particular devices are used for measuring the distance by using the two-way travel time by sending the pulses, and the pulses received by that particular sensor. So these are used for normal distance meter. This is for lake depth measurement, and normally microwave altimeter has longer penetration capability, so it can use it is normally being used for measuring the sea depth. Now coming to across tracks multispectral scanning. Why the name itself is suggesting it is called as across track. So suppose the swath width is this much kilometer, and it is having a rotating scan mirror, it is scanning pixel by pixel and collecting the data. So this scans in a series of lines, and it is oriented perpendicular to the motion of sensor platform. So you can see it is collecting pixel by pixel. So how the image is getting captured in this case of whisk broom scanner. Now let me tell you, for this particular whisk broom scanner, for blue, green, red, near infrared, or whatever number of bands are there, single detectors or different single detectors are there. And normally the field of view, the entire particular, to cover entire swath, it is going to cover the angle from 90 degrees to 120 degrees. Now this particular sensor is having certain limitation also. Limitation means what? Because the sensor is having a scanner rotating scan mirror, and it is collecting pixel by pixel and moving in further direction. So what is happening whenever it is scanning, till that satellite is also moving. So whenever it reaches to the extreme pixel, there is a kind of shift in that particular pixel that is introducing certain error during the acquisition using the across track. And the other name of this is called as whisk broom scanner, as like you are using a broom and you are across the track sweeping the floor. So that's why it is called as whisk broom scanner. Now the examples for this particular whisk broom scanners are multispectral scanner, thematic mapper, and operational land imager of Landsat series of satellite. AVHRR of NOAA are the example of whisk broom scanners. Now coming to along track scanner. In case of along track scanner, in place of your single detector, in this case we have a linear array of detectors in which we have thousands of charged coupled devices, that is small detectors, which are placed in a series of lines, and it is moving as the satellite is also moving. So it's like we are using a push broom and moving the broom in a further direction. So it is moving along the track and collecting the data. So like this is the series of line, and it is moving further for collecting the data. So you can see how the entire line is getting collected. So in this case, it doesn't have that scan skew error which is happening in the across track scanner. So examples of for this particular sensors are linear imaging self scanning, wide field sensor of IRS series, sensors of spot series satellites are also example of push broom scanner. So I will show you one image, some animation to make you understand that how across track and along track scanner is working. So you can see here first that main whisk broom scanner or a cross track scanner. So you can see that it is collecting pixel by pixel and moving in further direction by using a rotating scan mirror and moving further. So this is the example of whisk broom scanner. And but you can see here whenever it is collecting, it is not means your particular earth surface is appearing as stable, but it is also moving. So this is your whisk broom scanner example. Now coming to the another uh, sensor which is working, that is called as push broom scanner. So you can see push broom scanner is moving along the track and covering the entire swath at one go and moving in further direction. So this is called as along track or push broom scanner. Now, after this, let me tell you one more thing. Earlier, or even using your airborne platform or your UAV platforms, are using the frame cameras. So, how the frame cameras are working? So, you can see entire area of image is getting captured by your frame cameras. Now, you can also see the other example by seeing this video, that how the swath is explained and how using whisk broom scanner the data is getting captured. So you can see because of this whisk broom scanner, and you can see the width getting captured by your sensor, that is called as swath width, and it is moving further and the entire area of that particular earth surface is getting covered, and whenever it is going to cover the entire earth, it is going to capture the whole earth data. So after this, let me tell you about the limitation and limitation of the across track scanner. So you can see here, this is a across track scanner, and it is moving with a 2 into 10 to the power minus 2 second per scan line. Suppose this is your scan line. This particular area is having 10 meter by 10 meter pixel size, and this particular swath width is 20 kilometer. So there are total around 2000 cells. So we can calculate dwell time. Dwell time means up to what time the sensor is looking to the earth surface. So dwell time is equal to scan rate per line by number of cells per line. So it is 2 into 10 to the power minus 2 second per scan line, and 2000 cells are there in one line. So you can see here the time is 1 into 10 to the power minus 5 second per cell. Now, coming to along track scanner, your along track scanner is calculated by cell dimension upon velocity. Same swath width is there, same pixel dimension is there. So, cell dimension is 10 meter per cell, and velocity of the satellite is 200 meter per second. So, you can see here that dwell time is 5 into 10 to the power minus 2 second per cell. So, it is going to look to the earth surface for a longer duration. So, that's why it is receiving more signal, so your data will be having a better resolution. Now coming to high resolution imaging mode. So normally from satellite nowadays you are seeing that very high spatial resolution data sets we are getting. So in that case we require more signal from the same area. So we have Iconos, we have Cartosat series of satellite which is providing very high spatial resolution. So in that you can see in place of linear array of detector, we are using area array of detector. So suppose one line is there, it has collected the data, it moved further, it passed it to second following line, then third following line, like so on. So for the same pixel, you have received more signal. So that more signal is going to give you better spatial resolution and better radiometric capability for that particular area. Now, in case of Cartosat series, we have another high resolution imaging mode that is called as step and stare. Step and stare means suppose satellite is present at this position, it is moving at different steps and looking to the same area. it is staring to the same area. So that's why it is called as step and stare. It is moving at different steps and staring to the same place till its visibility. So this particular signal which is received from the same particular position is getting integrated, and then it is providing the high spatial information. Now, after different sensors had acquired the data, you have to understand the digital image. So digital image is what, whenever you zoom any particular photograph, you will see there is a particular square shaped pixel is formed. So that pixel is nothing but the smallest unit of any digital image, that is called as picture element. And your you can see that even you are using a black and white camera or your color camera, each and every object is appearing different at different bands also. So why it is appearing different? Because for different band it is going to provide different reflectance value, and you are able to see the different reflectance value because that is the particular reflectance values are different for different objects. So those values are called as digital numbers. So you are able to play with this data in your digital photograph because your computer is seeing nothing but this digital numbers. Now, that particular digital image which I have explained, so that is dependent on the four things, that is means defining the four things, that is spatial. Spatial is related to the size of that particular pixel. Spectral is related to the different number of bands. Radiometric is related to the value present in that particular pixel. And temporal is related to the how frequently the same digital image is acquired. So the definition of resolution is what? Ability of a sensor to render the information at the smallest discretely separable quantity in terms of distance, in terms of wavelength, in terms of time, or in terms of radiometry. So I'm going to talk one by one different resolution. So spatial resolution is what? The physical dimension on your earth is recorded. So suppose this is a one of the postprom scanner. This is a detector size. This is a linear array of detector. This is your lens, and this is the field of view, means the entire swath which is the captured by your. If suppose you are representing that in angular terms, and this is called as instantaneous field of view. So whenever any detector is viewing any particular area, it's like you are using a torch and a torch is illuminating, so a solid cone is getting formed. So that is called as instantaneous field of view. Whenever you will multiply with the height of the platform, that will talk about ground resolution element. So instantaneous field of view is what? Detector dimension upon focal length, that is a solid angle acquired by your detector. Ground resolution element or ground resolution cell is what? Whenever you are multiplying this IFOV with height, it will talk about the spatial resolution. Now, let me tell you, your spatial resolution is poor in geostationary satellite is because of this, because height of geostationary platforms are around 36,000 kilometers. Now, for detailed mapping, you require higher spatial resolution. So I'll give you the example that how the resolution is changing with different satellites. So you can see here, this is an example of ocean color monitor image from OceanSat data. So OceanSat satellite. So you can see whenever we took a particular portion of 4 kilometer by 4 kilometer, we are able to see certain information, but we cannot interpret that what are these features. When I took 188-meter WIF sensor data, you can see some of the information is better than the previous image, but still not interpretable. When list one data is with 72-meter pixel size was shown, we started seeing certain information like vegetation, urban, but still it's the interpretation is difficult. Now with list 2 data, 36-meter resolution, we can even see the airstrip and some water body, vegetation and urban. Now when we increase the spatial resolution to 23-meter and 6-meter, you can see the detailed features are clearly visible in this particular case. But whenever we are using panchromatic data, that is a single band data covering visible to near infrared region, the spatial resolution is better here. The shape of the features are more interpretable compared to the previous one. Now coming to this, the another example with spatial resolution, you can see whenever we use the same area data with 56 meter, 30 meter, 23.5, 15 meter, 5.8 meter, 4 meter and 1 meter, you can see the difference. By looking over the earlier images, the shape of the features are not clear, but this is the interpretation is slightly difficult. But when we have the higher resolution data, we can differentiate the features in more detailed and more clear way. Now, for which type of date application, which type of resolution is required? Normally, for meteorological applications like cloud patterns, movement, water vapor analysis, 1 to 2 kilometer or 8 kilometer resolution is required. For oceanographic applications, 300 to 1100 meter spatial resolution. For land use mapping, crop monitoring, forest mapping, hydrological application, 20 to 30 meter. For cartography or urban planning, 2 to 6 meter resolution is sufficient. For military surveillance, less than equals to 1 meter spatial resolution is required. Now coming to the second resolution, that is spectral resolution. Now you can understand by understanding the difference between black and white camera and color camera. In color camera, we are using three bands, blue, green and red, and the combination of the images are generated. In case of panchromatic, entire visible range is considered as single band and the data is getting captured. So normally when you have wide range of sensitivity, you are getting the higher spatial information, but the color information is missing. But in case of multispectral image or your RGB color image, you are able to see the different features in different colors because we can generate different color combination using the different bands. So more the spectral bands will be, you are able to get a better spectral reflectance curve. So normally spectral reflectance curve is dependent on the different wavelength, and with respect to that we are getting the reflectance values. So this refers to number of bands in the spectrum, and depending on that the data sets are categorized into three categories: panchromatic, multispectral and hyperspectral. Now, why this is important, why hyperspectral is important, you can see through this example. When we are using 6 band data, we can plot the nature of spectral signature of vegetation. But we cannot differentiate, we cannot identify which vegetation species it is. But when we are using 9 band, some of the detailed spectral signature started coming into it, but still not clear. But whenever we have using 150 bands with using hyperspectral, you can see the spectral reflectance curve of that particular vegetation species is very detailed. So you can differentiate the species level information using this hyperspectral data. Now, for which band, what application is required, that I'm going to tell you. But using that, you can generate two color composites, that is called as true color and standard false color or any other false color. Whenever you are using red band through red color gun, green band through green color gun, and blue band through blue color gun, that is called as true color or natural color composite. But when you are using near infrared through red, red through green, and visualizing green band through blue color gun, then that is called as standard false color composite. Now other than this two combination, whatever composites are there, they are normal color false color composite, but this is called as standard false color composite because it is able to differentiate most of the features and we are able to segregate most of the information in this color combination. Now for which application which band is required, for blue band is useful for penetration of clear water bathymetry application, coastal water application. Green band is required to see the green reflectance peak of vegetation, assess plant vigor, reflectance from turbid water. Then red band is required for chlorophyll absorption reason and is best for detecting roads and bare soil. Near infrared is useful for segregating that water and vegetation, and it is not effective as band 3, but still it is able to differentiate most of the feature. It is able to estimate biomass also. This particular band is you considered as best single band overall as it discriminate most of the particular features. Then this 2.09 to 2.35 mid infrared region, this band is useful for discriminating mineral and rock types and for interpreting vegetation cover and moisture. Now you can see that how reflectance differs by different wavelength. So green reflectance, whenever we are using, we are seeing that your urban features are very highlighted here. And whenever we are using near infrared, your vegetation feature and water body is clearly differentiated. Now, when we are using near infrared reflectance or short infrared reflectance, you can see in near infrared, cloud and snow are appearing same. But when we use short infrared region, we are able to differentiate cloud and snow. Why? You can see through the spectral reflectance curve of this cloud. Cloud is constant throughout your wavelength, but in case of snow, it is high in your visible region. But when it reaches towards higher wavelength, that is short wave infrared, it is having lower reflectance. So that's why it is segregated. Now coming to your short wave infrared and thermal band, you can see here this clouds are coming here, but we are not able to see the volcano and molten lava coming out of it. But when we use thermal data, you can see that molten lava coming out of this is clearly visible. Now coming to radiometric resolution. Normally the radiometric resolution is called as the ability of a sensor to discriminate very slight differences in the energy. Suppose you are seeing black and white feature, you can differentiate it. But if you have different shades of gray, it can be differentiated only when you have higher radiometric resolution. So finer the radiometric resolution, the more sensitive it is to detect small differences in reflected or emitted energy. So I'll give you with this example. If it is a 2 to the power number of, it is represented normally by 2 to the power number of bits. If it is a 1 bit data, 2 grayscales are generated, 0 to 1. 4 2 bit data, 4 grayscales. 4 bit data, you have 16 grayscales ranging from 0 to 15. 8 bit data, 0 to 255. So you can see with this example, if it is a two color data, you are seeing only black and white. If you have 16 color data, you can differentiate the features. And if you have more colors, you can assign more gray labels to different particular pixels. Now, temporal resolution represents the frequency with which a satellite can revisit an area. So that depends on two things: instrument field of vision and satellite's orbit. So revisit you can do by two ways. One, by tilting the sensor, like suppose satellite is moving and it moved further, it tilted the sensor and visited the same area. Second, by making the same orbital pass by the satellite. So that is called as, that is also revisit, by making the repeat cycle of that particular repeat pass of that area. So applications are what? For what application required what temporal resolution data? For meteorological application, hourly need to monitor the clouds. Oceanographic application, 2 to 3 days of reflectivity. Stereo viewing, 0 to 1 days of reflectivity, and vegetation monitoring, 5 days of reflectivity. So you can see here, in this case, this data is acquired in November, this data is acquired during February. So you can see when the vegetation is healthy, it is appearing to be on the healthy side, that is appearing in red color. But when it is dried, you can see the color of that vegetation feature almost change. So now I'll start with various Earth observation satellites. So from different countries, various satellites were launched. Now I'm going to more focus towards the recently launched and working satellites. So we have Spot 6 and 7, which was launched in 2012 and 14 for a purpose to provide very high spatial resolution for whole Earth data. Then from European Space Agency, we have Sentinel-1, Sentinel-2, and Sentinel-3, Sentinel-4. Till Sentinel-5, the satellites were launched. But Sentinel-1 is giving you the SAR sensor. I'm going to talk about a land imaging application. Then Sentinel-1 is having SAR sensor, which is working for the same, which is having two constellation of satellite 1A and 1B, which was launched in 2014 and 16. Then Sentinel 2A and 2B, which was launched in 2015 and 17, is able to give you data of 10 meter spatial resolution in multispectral mode. Then from Middle East, Eros is there. From from NASA, we have Landsat series of satellite. Landsat 8 was launched in 2013, and it is still working with 30-meter spatial resolution in multispectral and 15-meter in panchromatic. Then whatever data you are seeing in that your Google Earth, so that is with Iconos series of satellite or GeoEye series of satellite. They are highest spatial resolution provider. Iconos was the first commercial satellite which is used for providing the near photographic quality image. Then from Canada we have RadarSat series of RadarSat satellite, that is a microwave satellite. From India we have Indian remote sensing satellite series. So IRS, that is Resource at 2A, which is recently launched, is able to provide 5.8-meter resolution in list 4, and Cartosat 2 and Cartosat 3 series 3 satellite is able to provide around 0.25 centimeter resolution, and Cartosat 2 series is providing less than 1 meter spatial resolution. From Japan we have ALOS, and these are various distribution agencies. If you want to download and work in that particular data set, you can use this particular distribution agencies, and you can download the data. From India we can use NRSC and Bhuvan for downloading the satellite data. Now coming to the Landsat series of satellite, as I told, first satellite was launched in 1972 with multispectral scanner of 80-meter spatial resolution. Then similar sensors were there with Landsat 1, 2 and 3. Then Landsat 4 was launched in 1983 with upgraded instrument, that is with more number of bands and 30-meter spatial resolution, but the swath width was same with 185 kilometer. Then Landsat 5 was also having similar sensor. Then Landsat 6 was failed just after the launch. Landsat 7 was launched in 1999 with additional 15-meter panchromatic band. Then Landsat 8 was launched in 2018 with operational land imager and thermal infrared sensor. This particular sensor have two additional bands, that is coastal blue and cirrus band. Coastal blue is useful for ocean applications, and cirrus band is used for your cloud detection. Then two thermal band was there with 100-meter resolution in this particular TIRS sensor with that Landsat 8 satellite. Then Spot series satellite, as I gave you example, that this is having off nadir capability, so it is able to provide stereo data of any area. And Spot 6 and 7 was launched in 12 and 14, and up to 2024 they are having a goal of generating high spatial resolution data for entire Earth. Then ALOS satellite is have launched in 2006, ALOS 1. Then ALOS 2 was launched in 2014 with a similar kind of microwave sensor. And this ALOS 1 data sets are also available, which you can use for your applications. Then we have Indian remote sensing satellite series. So we started with list 1 and list 2 sensor with 72-meter resolution in 1988. Now we reached till 2019. We have Cartosat 3 satellite with 0.25 meter spatial resolution provider. So we have various satellite that is getting upgraded. Now we have in Cartosat 3 panchromatic and multispectral are both are there with very high spatial resolution. Earlier we were having multispectral of around 72-meter spatial resolution. Now this is the IRS satellite series spatial resolution. So with list 1 it is having 72-meter, list 2 is 36-meter, and I resource at 1, 2 and 2A is having AWIPS, list 3 and list 4 sensor. But the difference between resource at 1 and 2A and 2A is the radiometric resolution is better in this particular two satellites from resource at 1. And then Cartosat 1 is having 2.5-meter resolution, Cartosat 2A with 1.8, Cartosat 2B less than 1 meter. Cartosat 2 series is having high resolution multispectral sensor also with 2-meter resolution, and Cartosat 3 is with 1 meter spatial resolution in case of multispectral, and panchromatic 0.25 meter. Then we have hyperspectral sensors and microwave sensors. So hyperspectral sensors normally in airborne platform with the collaboration with NASA, we have used Aviris NG flight to acquire data for many sites in Indian region. Then HISIS was launched in 2018. That is a hyperspectral sensor. Then SAR, there are three SAR sensors: RISAT 2, RISAT 2, RISAT 1, RISAT 2B, and RISAT 2B R1 is also recently launched. This particular 2B and 2B R1 is the continuity mission for RISAT 2. This is using X band. RISAT 1 is having C band sensor. Now coming to the different images of different satellites, so you can see how the sensors look like with this one: blue, green, red, near infrared. List 2 is also with blue, green, red, near infrared. And these are the images captured with this list 1 and list 2 sensor. You can see how the features look like with this particular two sensors. Then this is a list 3 sensor of Hyderabad city. So you can see here, because this is your Hussain Sagar and the urban area surrounding to that, how it appears. And this is your IRS pan camera, which is with around 6 meter spatial resolution. So this is the data captured from Chandigarh. So the plant city, how it appears, you can see in this particular image. Then coming to your WIFS camera, so this is your WIF sensor with 188 meter resolution, and this is your AWIF sensor with 56 meter spatial resolution. So you can see here in this case how the snow is appearing in this hilly terrain, and in this case how the cloud is coming in the southern part of this region of India. Now this is again list 3 image of Hyderabad city. So you can see here, this is a Hussain Sagar Lake of Hyderabad, and this is your urban area, and this is one of the older airport of Hyderabad. So how it is visible in this case, and this is one of the popular Kankadia Lake in Ahmedabad city. So you can see different buildings are clearly visible in this case with 6 meter of spatial resolution. Then when we are using cartosat images, so in earlier images we can see the features, but the shape of the features are more clear when we are using very high spatial resolution. So in this case of high spatial resolution data, you can see individual buildings, roads, even the vehicles parked in this near to this railway stations are clearly visible. This is the Vidhan Sabha and stadium. The trees are also clearly differentiated in this particular case. The air craft which are parked in this airport, this is one of the image from Australia. So you can see that is very clearly the visibility is very clear in this case. Then this is the Cartosat 2 series image, that is the fused image from panchromatic and multispectral from one of the area of Rajasthan and one of the area of MP. So you can see the stadium in the Indore city, how it is clearly visible, and how the industrial site of this Kishangarh city is visible. This is the Cartosat 3 image of Khalifa Stadium in Doha, Qatar. So you can see that how the stadium is coming clearly with the fused image of 1 meter and 0.25 centimeter of your Cartosat 3. Now this is the Indian Earth observation missions in the near future. Resource at 3 and 3A, which is going to have advanced list 3 sensor with 10 meter resolution, and then Ocean Sat 3 and 3A with ocean color monitor of 13 bands, RS sampler of 3S and 3SA with 1.25 meter stereo imaging. GI Sat 1 is going to be kept in geostationary platform to give high resolution up to 50 meter resolution data in multispectral, and in hyperspectral mode also we are going to get VNIR and SWIR with 180 and 320 meter spatial resolution. Now coming to the other high spatial resolution satellite of different countries. So Iconos, QuickBird, Worldview series, GeoEye, Pleiades, SkySat and ComSat series from Korea are few of the satellites which I am going to show to you. So this is one of the Iconos image of fused of 4 meter and 1 meter. So this is our IARS campus. So you can see the individual buildings very clearly, and even the trees are coming very clearly in this particular image. Then this is one of the image of GeoEye-1 and Iconos image of Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant. So this is before and after the disaster. So you can see how the building got damaged in after that disaster. Then this is your ComSat 3 and 3A image. So you can see the different features very clearly here. You can see even individual cars parked in this area is very clearly visible. Whenever you zoom it to this image, you can see the cars, the color of the cars is also very clearly visible. Then coming to meteorological satellites, normally it is designed for weather prediction monitoring. Advantages are global coverage with very high temporal resolution. NOAA is near polar and sun synchronous, orbiting at sun synchronous orbit. GOES, GSAT, and INSAT series satellites are in geostationary orbit. India has now GSAT and INSAT series satellite, which are used for telecommunication and meteorological purposes. Where to find this information? So we have hundreds of websites of vendor, distributors, value orders. So you can see this website. In this website you can get the information for the different satellites and sensors. If you want to track the satellite movement, this is one of the website which you can use for real-time satellite tracking. These are few of the data browsing websites. So Bhuvan website which you can use, or NRSC website you can use for downloading our Indian satellite data, and for different other countries satellite data you can use other website. Like for Sentinel satellite we can use Sci-Hub, Copernicus, and Copernicus website for downloading the Sentinel series of satellite. For downloading ALOS data you can use this particular website, and Earth Explorer is one of the good website for downloading different satellites. Thank you.